for this episode of the Weird Obscure World podcast.
Just a couple of stars, wearing skin suits, traveling through space and time. Being hurtled, actually.
On a rock.
On a rock.
All right, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Welcome, everyone.
Yes, we're going to start out with some news.
Yes, just the absurd, obscure world of news.
Crazy news.
It's like when they have nothing else to report on, that's the shit we report on.
Yes. Or sometimes we might even report what they report on because it's juicy.
That's right.
So, I'm going to start. In 1980, December of 1980, there was a series of reported sightings of unexplained lights near the Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk, England. Now, near this forest, it was a RAF Woodbridge. It was an Air Force base, a British Air Force base, but it was home to an American Air Force fighter wing, or one of their wings. And so they saw these lights out in the forest. Their SPs did, their MPs, their police. So they go out there investigating these lights on the 27th at 3 a.m. You know, they're out there, they're investigating, the lights are down. They say they went up and touched the craft, and they talk about, you know, all this. And the next day, it happens again. This time, the colonel's out there. It's not just NCOs and lower enlisted guys. The colonel goes out there, the lieutenant commander of the whole base. It was a Lieutenant Colonel Holt, I believe. And he goes out there and he saw the lights as well. Multiple lights floating and moving around out in the forest.
So, like forest, we're talking a canopy. So they're not that far off the ground, or they're close, or...
Oh, they landed on the ground. The guys the night before went up and touched the structures these lights were hooked to.
What?
Yeah, and it's not a tall forest. It's not like a rainforest. It's an English forest, so... You know, I'm sure the
Shrubs,
canopies... yeah.
Rabbits, Englishmen with dogs.
Rain and terrible tasting food. Sorry, English people. I'm sure your food is delightful. Anyhow.
Tea and crumpets kind of forest.
So maybe 20 foot tall canopy, maybe 30 foot. But it's not like, you know, like a rainforest type situation. They went out and touched it. And this story has been on Unexplained Mysteries, and it's been on all the UFO shows, and probably even on Ancient Aliens.
They touched it. Why didn't they take it?
Maybe it was too big to take. Maybe they were worried about it. They don't explain that part. It's been sensationalized, though.
Well, yeah. I'm wondering how much of the story's been diluted.
There's the big question, you know.
I mean, like, honestly, I wonder if they actually did touch it, or if later he's like, yeah, man, I touched it.
There's a good question. I'm just going off what he's saying.
All right.
I mean, the guy's an old man now. You know, he's
Dementia
27 at the time. So he's 47 now. And, you know, once you hit those 40s.
He's an old man. He's 47. Sorry to you listeners.
Oh, actually, no. That's 40 years ago. He's 67 now.
Oh.
But the last interview I saw of him would have probably been at least a decade old.
All right.
Anyway, so the next day, the colonel's out there, and the colonel's out there with the disaster kind of recovery team from the Air Force, and they've got Geiger counters. And so they start hitting the ground where the sergeant saw it, and it's pinging the Geiger counters. Now, granted, this is a Royal Air Force base, and there have been reports that it may have been a place where nuclear weapons were transported to, from, or stored. So that could kick off a Geiger counter too. But I don't know for sure.
Little leakage.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you know, things weren't. Maybe they were built better. I don't know. But anyways, so they go out the next day, and the Geiger counters kick off. So the colonel's even reported this. But the update is, in December 2018, Dr. David Clark, a British UFO researcher, that's a ufologist.
Stop it.
I love it. Reported a claim that the incident was a setup. by the SAS as a revenge plot for the United States Air Force, according to this story, in August 1980, which would be, August to December. So it took them a few months to set this up. But the SAS were parachuting into Woodbridge to test the security of the nuclear site. And this is common in the military, as they use their own special forces to probe defenses of bases and find weak points and kind of do a test of the base defenses. Anyways, the U.S. Air Force had recently upgraded their radar and detected the black parachutes of the SAS men as they descended onto the base. The troops were interrogated and beaten up after capture.
What? Don't they share this base? Ish?
Probably, but I'm sure, I don't know.
Okay.
They may share it, they may not. Even then, I mean,
They weren't
there might have
friendly.
it might have been the British were watching the east side of the base and the Americans are watching the west, and the Americans come, or maybe British MPs wanted in on the action to beat up SAS guys. I don't know.
Okay.
The SAS stands for Special Air Service.
And that's a British...
They're British commandos. They're
like our airborne rangers.
Oh, they're more along the lines of
SEALs.
Delta Force.
Oh.
SEALs would be the SBS.
Okay.
Special Boat Service.
Special Boat Service.
Yeah.
Sounds like they bring crab in. Special Boat Service.
Show up with a paper hat on.
They hand out.
Hello, Governor.
They hand out those plastic
The bibs that look like a lobster hanging off you. Why is it that when you break a lobster wearing one of those, none of it ever hits the bib?
It's design.
It's crazy.
It's self-preservation. The bibs last a really long time.
They do. I wonder if they shake them off and hand them to the next guy.
That's what the boat service does. The special boat service.
No, the regular boat service, special boat service gives you new bibs. I hope none of these hardcore dudes ever listen to this and take umbrage with what we're saying. Anyway, so the SAS troops were interrogated, beaten up. But the ultimate insult was they were listed or called unidentified aliens.
The SAS group was?
Yeah.
They were listed as an unidentified alien?
Yes.
Awesome.
Now,
would the boat service be unidentified underwater alien?
yes. Like you have UFOs, and you have, what are the other ones? USOs? Unidentified submerged objects.
Yeah.
Those are an official thing,
Oh. A usologist, perhaps?
And then imagine the poor guy who has to type up the ones that are underwater, then leave the water, then are underwater again, then leave the water. That guy's just, he never gets to type up what they're doing except, okay, it's a UFO now. It's a UFO. USO.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's right.
So what the SAS did in revenge was, according to the story, give the United States Air Force a little version of an alien event.
Outstanding.
So,
that is a great revenge.
It's perfect.
That is fantastic. Please don't do that to us because we're making fun of the SBS.
It's gone on for almost 40 years. This belief has gone on for almost 40 years that there was it's been called the England's Roswell for 40 years. This is how you lay it down. So as December approached, lights and colored flares were rigged in the woods. Black helium balloons were also coupled to remote control kites to carry suspended materials into the skies, activated by radio controls. So the SAS took balloons and remote control kites and everything else. And I don't know exactly, what was available back then. I was 5. But they they rigged up these systems, and they went out there, flew them over the woods to where the SPs or the MPs would notice, and then flew them around out there, maybe lit off other stuff, landed them, took off. Who knows what they did? The Air Force sergeant, the sergeant in charge, said he went out and touched them. Another guy said he went into them and saw hieroglyphs written inside of them.
Oh, I call total BS.
Well, I agree. But how big are these balloons, you know? And
how do you get into a balloon?
I don't know. The Hindenburg was a balloon.
Yeah, but that was a structure.
It was.
With the balloon outside.
But what if these were like some of those big balloons for climate? You know?
Yeah. And again, I guess maybe depending on how the base was structured, like don't touch or whatever, maybe they did see them, feel them, take away this, you know.
Well, he said there was writing inside of them, and the guy might have been freaking out and delusional at the time.
Yeah, but why didn't he? If I'm investigating if I'm a ufologist, I'm not quite sure how to become one, or if I'm an aspiring
We should join
ufologist.
MUFON.
Join what?
MUFON.
It's MUFON.
It's the ufologist group.
Okay.
Probably costs like $10 a year.
I'm joining today.
Yeah, we're joining MUFON.
MUFON, we're coming.
I wonder if I get an ID badge like an X-Files guy. That'd be cool. Man, I'd wear that badge. I'd wear that badge everywhere I went. It's on my pajamas. Got it on a lanyard down at the gym.
Okay.
What if you get discounts?
On what?
I don't know. Movies? McDonald's?
Oh, I can't even handle it. Okay, so if I'm an aspiring MUFON,
Okay.
ufologist,
Uh-huh.
if I'm a military guy who's trying to identify lights in the night sky,
Mm-hmm.
and I come across anything that appears to be, you know, creating this, I'm taking that with me.
What if it's too big to carry?
Then I'm going to get something to come take it with me.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not just going to take the memory of it, the hieroglyphics.
He wrote notes in the notebook.
You don't do that. I mean, we're just talking commonsensical stuff.
Oh, I agree.
So
I agree.
I believe that it's the best prank in the history of ever.
If it is a prank.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Well,
perhaps they're it's like ISIS. They're taking credit for things they didn't do.
Okay. Well, okay. So we all know the story of Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does. You've got the story day 1, the story day 3, on down the road. It keeps changing. It was weather balloons again. But it kept changing, and so this might be the same circumstance. Now, these are military guys in a volunteer military, where they've got patriotism. They joined up for whatever. It's still the Cold War. It's 1980. Russia's still going as strong as communism can, and so they're still. These guys are they believe in the hype. So if he sees something, he's going to report it. Not just that, but he's also an MP, which is kind of a different level of brainwashing to manage security risks and top secret stuff, because they might come across that. So, I mean, he treated it the way he was supposed to. They all did. It was a private who saw it first, who called it in. They called the NCO in charge. The NCO in charge came out.
Take notes. Leave it where it is.
Take notes.
Go on about your day.
Well, what
Breakfast?
the NCO did do, according to his story, is he went back the next day and made a plaster of Paris mold of the ground where it was parked.
So it was heavy, like a footprint.
I I suppose.
So now he's got like a box-shaped plaster of Paris in his basement somewhere?
Maybe it's a triangle.
Yeah, well, it could be. Perhaps to make this plaster of Paris story more palatable.
Or
it's a hexagon.
Or maybe because it was 3 a.m, he took a sample of where the something else sat forever, 10 meters away, and still doesn't know what happened.
Okay. Again, back to my original comment. No way. It didn't happen like that. So he left with his little notebook, his handy dandy little notebook like Blue's Clues, with his absolute truest version of what he saw.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't take it with him, but instead ran into town, found plaster of Paris, and came back to where he thought it sat and took a mold of its imprint.
Yep.
That is not true.
According
Is that
now,
in the story?
Yeah.
What?
That's
Who's reporting this?
That's unexplained mysteries.
They clearly have done their homework. Who does these interviews? I would sit across from this guy with like one eyebrow up.
What was that guy's name?
What?
The guy who announced for Unexplained Mysteries?
I don't know.
He had that gruff voice. Tonight on the show. It sounded all official. Anyway, so, no, the ultimate one is it was aliens. And they made a pact with the Queen.
Stop.
So
the Queen don't give no shits about aliens.
Maybe their queen has a very cool tiara, and our queen was envious, or you know what I'm saying. The alien queen, the green queen, had a cool tiara, and
they made a pact with the alien queen.
Yes,
not the Queen of England.
Well, the Queen of England made a pact with the Queen of...
Oh, stop.
Queen of, Uranus.
And then she wrote it in her notes.
Well, no, and then some news was about to break. So the Queen said to some old retired SAS guys...
Do me a favor.
Well, it was probably...
Take credit for this.
Probably sound a little better than that. Like, I say, would you... And then... So the
Sipping tea.
Oh, there was tea involved in that conversation. And crumpets.
All British and English people are like, we don't even like crumpets.
Yeah, what's a crumpet?
It's a kind of cookie.
Oh.
I should make some. We should have tea and crumpets.
Yes. That'll
the next time we do one of these goofy stories that straight up is not giving the full story, we're going to have tea and crumpets.
Well, I'm giving you the full story right now. So the SAS guys made the story up to hide the real aliens.
So that's how this story ended, from the Unexplained Files.
They just, I'm just giving an update to the story. No, the Unexplained Files ends with, like Roswell ended. It's all covered and then fog blew over the screen. That guy came back on and then they went to talking about,
Commercial
Kennedy's death or something. I don't know. But...
Take some Zeljans XR or some shit.
Oh, this was back before Zeljans. This would have been... Oh, what was the new pill back then? I don't know. Something ADD, I'm sure. But anyway, so the Queen sends the retired SAS guys. She knights them, of course. So it's Sir Rodney of Wickermucker and, Harold of somewhere else. And they go out and say, yeah, it was us. The doctor was talking. He got his reports, Dr. Clark, from an SAS sniper who was active at the time of the incident. So...
This doctor is the ufologist, correct?
Dr. Clark is a ufologist. He's a doctor.
In ufology? Or urology? Or
I would like to get a ufologist degree.
Ooh, yes.
I wonder if you have to go to the 4 years of pre-med and all that, or if it's a doctorate, like a doctorate in physics.
Perhaps like in astronomy.
But then again, a radar technician could technically be considered a ufologist. Because the radar doesn't say, it's this. It's an unidentified flying object till they make radio contact with you.
It's true. Okay, so 2019 goals. Ufologist.
And crumpets.
And crumpets.
Yes.
Okay. On to my story. Not nearly as colorful. but still great news. Especially in this specific time in the state of Utah, with this great and valiant fight to get cannabis actually legalized, although it did pass the House and it was legalized, blah, 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 schmackety schmo. They've now gone on to create, as Utah so commonly does, a bunch of new rules around it. Well,
Democracy, yeah.
they are going to eat this up. That's the reason I reported on it. So, headline reads, Cannabis found to alter genetic profile of sperm. Let that sink in for just a minute. The
hold on.
Profile...
When it alters it, does it give you like...
superhuman strength?
Well, does it turn the sperm green and it, it tears its tail off and has shorts that used to be pants? How does it alter it?
Well, here's the deal. They're kind of like pre-reporting this. I think it's a shot. It's a shot at the cannabis industry.
Oh,
Shots
you think
fired.
they're coming after the cannabis industry saying...
Yeah, buyer beware. This is a cautionary tale and a public service announcement. However...
But they've legalized it everywhere else around here. Utah, what do you think Utah's going to do about this? Or do you think Utah even notices?
Oh, that other places have legalized it?
Well, lots of places have.
Yeah, no, Utah is like a vacuum.
Well, or a vacuum.
Yeah,
no.
it's just like humming.
A sinkhole, a black hole.
Yeah, same.
Dry. Utah's dry. It's like the driest state.
For real. So, this research did come from a reputable source. Duke University has suggested because, like I say, this is a cautionary tale, public service announcement, shot, if you may, that THC could impact the sperm of men in their childbearing years and potentially the children they conceive. So, the idea is that the genetic makeup and DNA is passed on through the sperm into the child to help create and mold what they then can become. I think that there's some expression, genetic expression, and that we're not all destined, but the idea is that it actually turns on or turns off these unknown markers, changing the genetic makeup of sperm, which then in turn could change the next generation.
So that mean the sperm like swims slower and says stuff like dude and man a lot.
Right.
Or maybe sounds like Shaggy.
Oh,
Scoob!
that is something I could get behind.
Yeah.
I could get behind that. I would visit Colorado, for all you burners out there, for that alone. Start having some babies. So, previous research has established that tobacco smoke, pesticides, flame retardants, and even obesity alters sperm. And it alters it in such a way that it actually activates and deactivates certain genetic markers that could or could not be expressed later.
I watched on Joe Rogan once, they were talking about, a little bit off the path, but testicle size in chimps according to how promiscuous the lady chimps were. And the more promiscuous the lady chimps were, the larger the testicles of the boy chimps are. Hence meaning they try throwing more sperm at the egg than the other chimps around them.
Really?
Now it's off Joe Rogan. I consider that a reputable source, but that's just me.
Yes. Joe's been out there. He's tested. He's felt them. He's measured them. He's given them cup sizes.
The scales look funny.
Yes. So, back to this research.
Talking about plaster of Paris molds.
There you go. Now, that's a good use for plaster of Paris. So, Duke research shows that THC also affects the way that genes are expressed and causes structural and regulatory changes in the user's sperm. THC targets genes in two major cellular pathways. So they haven't determined if it's good. Like maybe it's a great change. Like they're more mellow. They like to snack.
That's how we usher in the what do they call it in the new age, the Aquarius.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
usher in Aquarius by
By
making us like Scooby snacks more and
yeah, just relax,
afraid
people.
of janitors in costumes.
Yes. That's a genetic expression again. I can't wait for. So, of course, the higher the concentration, the more pronounced the genetic changes. So, in the end, here is what they are saying. We don't know whether these changes are permanent or whether they're going to actually cause any damages or benefits.
Well, it's changing the DNA in sperm.
Yes.
How long does sperm live for?
Well, I think that depends.
Inside the man. That's the question.
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
Perhaps you could go through like this, like getting sober stage if you don't want to pass this genetically lazy sperm on to your kid.
A Monday morning baby might be the pot baby. And a Thursday night baby might be a square.
Yeah. And people increasingly, children who are of childbearing age, who are in their 30s and 40s, are living with their parents. If this is caused from THC, stop. Stop smoking it. Move to Utah. We're going to help you stop.
Forcefully. Oh, should we talk about our new drunk driving numbers?
Oh, for crying out loud.
0.05.
That's the new legal limit. That's like a breath mint.
Yeah. Just drive on just walk past the beer aisle in the store and you could get a DUI.
Yes.
They need to start selling beers like those baby Cokes out here, about that size.
So I wonder, because a lot of people are vaping now. I'm just kind of looking at your vape oil. Does it have alcohol concentration in it? Like as a stabilizer?
I wouldn't know.
You're totally going to get a DUI.
My douche flute.
Your douche flute going to get you a DUI. Do you even vape? All right.
I've got a beard. I had to buy into the whole... You know.
You've got a beard.
Gonna start wearing skinny jeans.
Stop it. You can change a tire. You don't fit into that classification.
Oh, come on now.
Okay, so, main story. The real reason we're here.
Ooh.
Out of the fluff and into the depths of hell. No, literally. The depths of hell. Because you brought up the idea that we should cover this. And initially I was like, yeah, that's kind of a great story. But man, like, I need to like go to the library and read some philosophical thinking, and because my IQ is dropping every time I watch one of these. So, what we are going to talk about, I'm going to just go ahead and lead on into it, is the Satanic Panic.
Yes, it's huge.
Of the 1980s. And it's Valentine's Day. What says love more than Anton LaVey?
That's right. I mean, I've been to the ends of the internet. I have. I've
The things you send to me, nobody should receive.
I've seen one. I'm starting to talk like a preacher now. What?
Now what?
Because
or
I've
Metallica.
I've listened to a lot of preachers explain to me the evils of cartoons and of He-Man. When I was playing with He-Man as a child and thinking that he was cool because he was muscly and had a sword, really what I was doing was I was honoring the Dark Prince and ushering in the Antichrist, apparently.
Fantastic.
Oh. And you had some Rainbow Bride action going. Did you not know that she had an upside down star on her cheek? No, you did not.
Well,
Rainbow Bright is a tool of the Dark One.
wow. I had no idea.
Rainbow Bright.
I'm going to go through all of my daughter's toys.
You know who else there is?
I heard SpongeBob. SpongeBob is teaching our kids to be satanic.
The Smurfs.
Okay, now I agree with that.
Do you?
Creepy.
What's creepy about it?
Everything. They're blue. There's only one female. One. In
That's
a
true.
commune of half-dressed little blue men who sing.
Yeah.
I agree. Totally demonic.
Okay. I can get with you on that. The singing part especially.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, so we're going to talk about over the next little while. Well, we're not going to repeatedly, not all shows are going to be about this for the time being. We're just going to bump in and out when we have a story that guides us down the path of the Satanic Panic, which was it was honestly a Salem witch hunt style, but except bigger. It was nationwide. Well, it was kind of worldwide. Studying it expressed itself in Africa. It expressed itself in England and Canada. Everywhere. And I have a lot of thoughts on what brought it about culturally, which we'll get into at one point. But one thing that let it off, one thing that kind of absolutely initiated it and brought the thought of devil worship into the forefront is Anton LaVey.
Otherwise known as... Go ahead. But we may catch some backlash from you satanic worshipping listeners, which I'm sure we have several.
Yeah.
His actual name was Howard
Stanton LaVey.
That's right. Not Anton LaVey.
So, Mr. LaVey, born April 11, 1930 in Chicago. His mother and father moved him to San Francisco when he was young. And
See, that's where I think it all went wrong.
His mother Gertrude, which
It's a great name.
the best name ever.
Next to Angus.
Next
Does he have
to
an uncle
Angus.
named Angus out there somewhere?
Yeah, I should dig deeper.
You should.
I should really research this.
That's right. Ancestry.com for Anton LaVey. Ooh, that's a church site. Now I must find out if Mr. Howard Stanton LaVey, the writer and conspirator of evil, is on Ancestry.com. I wonder if it's like, if he's been removed.
Should we see if the church will do his genealogy for us?
I would join for that reason alone.
Need to find out if they did a burial or a
Okay, so that's
the baptism for the dead.
straight to hell for that comment.
Oh, that poor kid. He's on a Saturday trip into the temple. He's 13.
And he has Howard Stanton
Got
LaVey.
a list of names.
Okay.
Anton LaVey's in there. The pool starts boiling. Oh.
All right.
Oh.
We will update you all on our website with the actual findings from Ancestry.com, the Christian-led website for ancestry and heritage and genealogy, to see if they have Howard Stanton LaVey, otherwise known as Anton LaVey.
Or we could start at Gertrude. Gertrude Augusta Coltrane. Now,
Yes.
she was born to a Russian mother and father who immigrated to Ohio in 1893. So, he's young. His family moves him out to Mill Valley, California. And he went to school there till he was 16. Now, his claims are that he left school to join a circus and later carnivals. First is a roustabout, which
Yeah, what is is a roustabout?
What is a roustabout?
Like a bouncer?
Well,
If you're too drunk, I roust you up, get you about, get you out.
a roustabout, it comes from, it's an occupational term. Traditionally, it referred to a worker with a broad-based, non-specific skills. So I guess like I don't know,
We're all
a
roustabouts.
filled hand or a grip.
A broad-based, non-specific skill?
Yeah.
That's
So-
a better way of saying we have no idea what a roustabout is.
Yeah. How would you feel about emptying my trash today?
Your official job title could be roustabout.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so he may have been a roustabout.
He may have been.
Yeah.
He says he stated that he joined circus and then carnivals.
So he also states that he was a child prodigy, but I really can't find anything to substantiate that.
But he played keyboards in nightclubs.
So prodigies play keyboards in nightclubs. Okay, fine, it's substantiated.
Anyways, there's no proof even that he worked at the circus or any of that other stuff. There is proof that he did study criminology and take photographs for the San Francisco Police Department.
So that was kind of like his normal everyday job, or his everyday getting to adulthood kind of life, prior to his absolute dive, swan dive into
Awesomeness.
craziness. He's crazy.
Uh-huh.
So his writings, first of all, let's just call it what it is. It is the Church of Satan and the Satanic Bible is what this guy wrote. Which, in and of a nutshell, from an outsider looking in, if I write a book that says how to cook an oyster, you can expect that on the inside, I'm going to teach you how to cook an oyster. No. In this particular writing, what you find is that he doesn't worship Satan. First of all, it's called the Church of Satan, but he comes out to clearly disparage the idea that he worships Satan. He does not. Does not.
Yeah.
And second of all, it's plagiarized.
Yeah, there's...
Most of it is like every other line. It's mind-numbing to read through the ramblings of a psychopath.
Yeah, he... you could more call him an extreme libertarian. But look at his signature, though. Just look at that signature. He put a devil's tail on it.
Make it.
He did.
Like the little hearts that I put above my eyes in, like, I don't know, the 5th grade. He signs his last name.
The Y on Vey.
The Y on Vey. At the very end, he swoops it down and puts a devil's tail on it.
Yeah, has like the little pointy tail, like on the devils on cartoons.
So,
Which are a tool of Satan.
great. Bringing it all full circle.
Yep, so
But
he starts the church in 1966.
which is like a really, I mean, if we're just going to talk timing, it's the perfect time to start anything against what is considered the normal institution.
Mainstream, yeah. Everyone's checking out, and apparently, you know, it's been reported that he had ties to the family, which was Marilyn Manson's, you know, group, and so he has
group.
Yeah, he has ties to them, but we do know that Jane Mansfield, the victim of Helter Skelter, was a member of his church.
See, now to me that's pretty surprising, because Helter Skelter was supposed to have been paying homage to...
No, Helter Skelter was, according to the family, an incident so crass. What they report they did it for was to do a horrible act and try to blame it on African Americans to bring in a race war. And Manson's thought process was that the African Americans would win, and then he would be, their leader after. He was extremely prejudiced. He thought they would win through strength, but then they would realize that these are his words, not mine. I do not believe this. That they would realize they're not smart enough to manage a society by themselves, like Africa hasn't had societies before or now.
He wasn't well traveled, people.
Oh, he was well traveled from prisons across the United States.
No, I mean outside of the country. I mean, he's clearly never been to...
Or outside of the prison system.
Yeah, that's true. He did spend most of his life.
Yeah. A substantial part of his life.
He's a product of that, for sure.
Yep. But anyway, and he felt that he would be the only white man left, so they would make him leader. These are his ramblings. Granted, it sounds like you can almost hear the LSD speaking through him. Maybe some psilocybin, maybe some peyote. He might have been dehydrated at the same time because it's just crazy person talk.
He's suffering
that
from
was
hypothermia. It's like super cold where he's at.
Yeah, that was his thinking on why they did Helter Skelter.
So his ramblings are then very similar to Mr. Creepy himself, Anton LaVey. Let's talk about Anton LaVey's signature look.
Oh,
because he really did, like his little tail at the end of his signature, he full on committed. Like some people are like, I'm going to do this. No. He like set some goals, wrote down like how to get there, got himself a publicist, and she was like, lose the hair, man. You've got to be bald. Devils are bald. We need to see your shining head. He started wearing like this musk of a goat. I'm not kidding. Like, okay, first of all, where do you buy goat's musk?
Oh, hell, I had that male goat for a while. And when you can smell a male goat from a block away, the goats, they like pee on themselves to,
Oh, I wonder if he did. Like if he was that committed. Like get up in the morning, take a urine bath, on with the cloak, take some photos in front of your pentagram.
I like the one of him holding
symbols.
the chalice though. That's marvelous.
Well, yeah. Well, it's very Captain Morgan-esque.
Captain Morgan. Well,
the arm up, elbow out.
Yeah, he's got a skull on the desk.
Yes. Oh, he does have a skull on the desk.
He's looking very imposing.
Yes.
I mean,
We're going to include all of these
how many
photos.
different pentagram necklaces does this man own?
Again.
I mean,
do you buy it at the same place? Goat's musk, pentagrams. Is it solely for satanic worshipers?
You'd have to,
like that?
yeah. You'd have to have your own jeweler and.
Goat musker.
Well, what do you call a person that makes perfumes?
I don't know.
I mean, eau de toilette, or
yes.
Except his would be eau de toilet. But anyhow, yeah. So he has in some pictures it's a thin beard, a jaw running beard, and always a tight goatee, always a shaved head.
I want to see him smiling. That's one thing I haven't seen.
Well,
It's
you have to look up Howard's pictures to see that, I'm sure.
Yeah, he smiled prior to complete swan dive into crazy.
And this could only happen in California. Only.
Absolutely.
It could not have started up anywhere else.
Absolutely.
Not since the 1900s. I mean...
There's a documentary I'm watching. We're going to do a future show on it. When you get a minute, it's called Murder Mountain. And it is taking place, as we speak, in Humboldt County, California. Again, only in California. It is a deep dive into... It's like Redneck Woods meets money.
California reminds me of a schizophrenic.
Yes.
It'll do so many things that are pro people and pro this, and then it will back it up with some crazy regulation or crazy law or crazy
Making
police
it
department.
absolutely unattainable.
It's just, well, you hear California's proposing a text tax.
Like per text?
It'll probably be like a tax that gets added to your phone. And what they're asking for is, if I remember correctly, is $25 billion
Excellent.
to help give phones to poor people.
Who are then going to pay a text tax.
Who are then going to pay a text tax, but the rich people are going to buy iPhones to text on iPhone service and avoid the text tax. So the poor people are going to be chasing their tails.
Excellent. Sounds
Even the people who
absolutely like
proposed the
California.
tax says that the tax is regrettable and unattainable. But they're proposing it. It's
So we're going to actually read this satanic Bible from the Church of Satan before we completely pick it apart. But let me tell you, just from what I'm seeing, it is basically a line of absolute garbage followed by something that most people can get behind. And then it's like he gives you just enough garbage that you're ready to close it, and then he brings you back with something from someone else that he's plagiarized.
like there's a stick with a string
Yes.
and a carrot on it, but the tip of the carrot's been dipped in shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you're starving,
Yep.
so you're trying to eat the bits that haven't been dipped in shit. It's craziness.
Our next show will be on a synopsis of the Satanic Bible, of the holy verses written down by the Black Pope.
And let me tell you, he calls himself the Black Pope.
I know.
And we're going to play at the end of this show a clip from a show that he did, a talk show, one of the only ones that he did. I don't know if it's just me or if people just weren't as sensitive back then, but this talk show host tears him apart. And unapologetically laughs at him, says, "Oh, aren't little kids scared of you?" I mean, it's the reason that Howard stopped doing talk shows.
Yeah, I imagine. Though his daughter and son
Oh, yes.
go on to keep doing them.
It's like maybe in the Bible somewhere it says self-mutilation is a thing to do, and that's why they keep putting it out there.
Well, and you look at it, his church, though it was less or not as far down a magical path as the name of it would lead you to believe, it spawned other offshoots that that got kind of crazy. I mean, you've got the Temple of Set. You know, in England, there was a couple of churches, and in Europe. So I personally feel like all of these founders of these churches are showmen. That's what they use to gain some notoriety, but people believe in them.
And
The Solar Temple, I mean, how many people did they end up killing? I think it was 90 something
well, and
of their own people. They, half suicide, half of them, were killed by the guy before he committed suicide.
well, and people, what we're talking about is the bringing on of what is now known as, and was a true long-lasting event with repercussions that are still being felt today. The bringing on of the satanic panic is brought on by people like this nut job.
Initiated. I don't know if the satanic panic would have happened without him putting Satan as a worshipped idol in the minds of the populace. I don't know whether it would have happened.
And what is absolutely the most absurd thing is that in like the first lines of the entire writing, it says he doesn't worship Satan. But for whatever reason, it's like they said, we didn't hear that.
Well,
Worship Satan. They're all worshiping Satan.
they didn't read it, obviously. I mean, first of all, let's just face it. Most religious people won't delve into a book that looks like it openly goes against their religion.
And that's what this is about. That's what this is about. How many pastors have read the Satanic Bible? How many of these preachers that then went on to destroy people? And I get it. They're claiming that their destruction of these people is in defense of Christianity, but let's be honest. There has been more bloodshed under the cross than under any satanic pentagram could ever have done.
Because I don't honestly think there's been a satanic pentagram that was... there may have been killers who were psychotic and like the Night Stalker.
Yes.
I would argue he's probably either a crazy guy that never read the Book of Satan, if he could read it all, but probably thought he understood the synopsis from, I don't know, osmosis or whatever. Or he was just a perverted creep who got caught, who got tried, and just like on the way out, I'm gonna make sure that they remember my name.
Right.
And either one are equally plausible. I don't think that he read the Satanic Bible or Anton LaVey's ramblings and that he got the idea to do what he did from that.
So, I think in closing, I think that one, Howard, for real, why did you name your book that? Like, in his spare time, does he like make appointments to punch kitties or what does he do? Or is he like super soft and he bakes brioche on the weekends?
What's a brioche?
It's a food. We'll make brioche and crumpets. He bakes it on the
Do
weekends.
they mix well together?
Probably not. Brioche is a type of cheese.
Oh.
But, I mean, he, you know...
I think, honestly, instead of punching kittens in his spare time, is he poses like he's punching a kitten in his spare time. And then, after the camera's the picture's taken, he hands a kitten a treat.
That's what I'm saying. Is this all for show?
I think it absolutely is.
It starts this movement that crazy Bible thumping. Oh, the IQ levels are...
He gets the Christians in an uproar. I just wonder, you remember that Dragnet movie that came out?
Yes.
I wonder if they ever wore woolen chaps. Because...
Inquiring minds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because Dragnet, that's what they wore at their cult proceedings.
Yes, we must find out
Mm-hmm.
if he owned. Maybe he gets it at the same place as his pentagram necklaces.
Maybe that was how you trapped the smell of the
goat musk. You rub the shaft.
You do not want goat musk anywhere near you. That goat lived in my backyard, and I couldn't sleep in the house. It was disgusting. I had to get the goat away. Your
neighbors loved you, I'm sure.
Oh, they hated me.
Yeah.
Amber could smell it, and she was across the street.
Ah, yuck.
Oh, it was terrible.
So he goes on this talk show wearing that, and the talk show host notices that. Just that smell.
Oh, man.
And he admits it's goat's musk. What the hell? So, anyway, future shows, we are going to take a further look into this. I don't know if it'll be the next show that we talk into the Satanic Bible, but there are many events that we can pinpoint, probably many more. Most of the events that started the Satanic Panic, I would venture to say, happened in the homes of these wacky, off-the-charts Bible thumpers when they were 4, 5, and 6. That's where the real shit starts.
Oh, that's true. I mean...
So, the
Look at every
satanic
politician that rails out against homosexuality and what they're doing on
exactly.
Wednesday nights down at the motel.
So the satanic panic is a culmination of I don't know what happened in all these homes, but it becomes this mob mentality where one person jumps on, and then giant news stories. CNN,
Yeah, the news.
Newsweek,
CNN.
Time does a big piece on it.
CNN was brand new, so they dedicated all day, every day to that, like CNN does, and all that did was the corners of America or the world that wasn't aware of it suddenly had to become aware because that's all they talked about.
Right.
And then people would seek it out. Well, back then the only thing you could find about it was something from at the best I can say they were delusional, but honestly most of the time watching these old recordings and stuff from the fundamentalist Christians who railed against it.
And let's be honest, most of those were on VHS.
I know it's and they are dishonest. They're dishonest in what they say, what they claim. They're
It's
dishonest.
propaganda.
Yeah, it's 100% propaganda. Like they throw out numbers of people and there's no correlation. There's no citation. Claims that 40% of teenagers in the United States are Satan worshipers.
And 85% in other countries.
80% in Europe. They're saying 80% are Satan worshipers in Europe.
And we're gonna talk more about the other events that we can literally just pick off a map that happened just prior to the big event, which would be the daycare event.
Yep.
That is still, there are people still serving time. And
I don't know if they're serving time from the daycare event, but I do know that it ruined a family's life.
Yes.
It ruined a 3-generational business. The preschool was in a family for 3 generations at the time. And craziness destroyed that. Police following leads that weren't there, not hunting for any physical evidence.
They had an agenda. They had an agenda to both prove that satanic worship was happening and to absolutely create it.
Well, yeah, and psychologists jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, but this is the lead-in. We're going to say, without question, that although Satanism may not have started completely with Howard, dude.
Senor LaVey.
Take his pen away. If you see a crazy man like this, don't allow them a pen.
No,
don't
no.
give them a typewriter.
No.
Because they're going to
we need to
down.
give them pens, typewriters, editors. We need to see what falls out of their faces.
Oh, but then it becomes a movement and another church and then more crazy.
But what that movement did ultimately was poke holes in the crazy fundamentalists.
Yeah. I guess
But there's a whole group of things, a typhoon that happened at once.
Yep.
You had political handshakes with the evangelical and the fundamentalists. You had new electronics becoming mass available. You had all these things happen all at once, and I think any one of those being missing, it wouldn't have happened.
True. He was sucked in. I think maybe created part of this typhoon that then went on to suck in a ton of people. And I honestly remember the undertones. We felt them here, in our little town here in Utah.
Yeah, we didn't get preached to about it. We both grew up in a...
Well, no, but about that time they started talking about Devil's Cave. And,
Devil's Cave.
And sacrificial things
devil
going on.
worshippers. But I think most of that was us I don't think our folks ever said anything like
No.
that. And we grew up as free range kids. We didn't grow up in a culture where we were, babysat all the time.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
we grew up free range, so our parents were quite lenient on that. They were good parents. They fed us every night and only, spanked us, 7, 8 times a day. It really was nothing. Love you, Mom.
So, aside from the Satanic Bible, we're going to cover things like Hasbro's Ouija board. We may even play your Ouija board, get some video of it.
I'm
Listen, we're
definitely
not
down
afraid.
for that. I want to ask the Ouija board so many questions.
Yeah, we're not afraid.
Like, what's the best way to hang your toilet paper?
It's a good question.
Roll out or roll in? I mean, you've got the proper way and then the devil's way, but what is the best way according to our spiritual guides?
Well, that's the first question.
Honestly,
That is the first question.
honestly, I gotta know.
We're gonna
I've gotta
clear
know.
out the
I've
room.
wondered that forever.
And then we're going to report to you
Yes,
the best way to hang your toilet paper.
that's right. That's right. We'll once and for all, the mighty questions will be answered when we come to the desk.
Yes.
When we talk with our elder spirits, and we'll do it at night. Record the whole time.
Maybe at Devil's Cave.
That's kind of cold. We can do it in here. We'll just light some candles.
We'll pretend.
We'll pretend. Man, it's cold up that canyon right now.
So, I don't know if we can still buy a Ouija board. I'm
Oh,
sure
you can.
Amazon.
No, I saw a Ouija board in the store.
In Utah?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, in the that kind of toy store in the mall maybe
like
2 months
Hammond.
ago. Yeah.
Hammond Toys. Yeah, that's right. They've got to be anti-Christian if they have that. We're,
Well,
again, making broad statements.
It was made by Hasbro, which, according to the fundamentalists, led the crusade against Christ.
Hasbro.
Yes,
That's right.
and it's weird watching these old documentaries, which were made by fundamentalists. There's a feeling that this kind of war between Islam and Christianity that you kind of feel pressure from. It wasn't alive then. They included Islam on their side against Satan worshippers on every turn. Islam and Judaism and Christianity were all homeboys back then. They did great. And then once that bad guy went away, I guess they needed another one, and bang, you're it. I guess the Christians are lucky the Jews and Muslims didn't decide it was their turn. I don't know.
Strange stuff out there, people.
It's
Weird.
exciting times. It's crazy how we have to polarize and tribalize.
Weird, obscure world for sure.
We're going to have
For
some
sure.
bumpers at the end of this. I think we need to play Anton LaVey's music.
Oh, yes. It will definitely be at the end of this.
It'll be our closer. Our outro will be his tune that apparently he wrote because he played organs and stuff.
Yes. I don't think it's him singing, though. And
Ooh, what if it was?
if it is, Howard, I know so little about you. We need to get to know you.
It would have
better.
been awesome if he'd have walked on that stage with his black robe on and his...
Horns. He wore horns.
Yeah, he wore horns.
People, they were made of felt.
His pentagram number 3 that hangs in the 4th closet of the Black House. And if he'd have walked in and he would have sounded like...
Like the guy off the plane.
Or Bobcat Goldthwait.
Now that would have led him some credibility.
Or gosh dang, gotta think of a really good... if he would have sounded like, if he'd had a voice like Kermit the Frog.
That'd have been great.
I mean, if he'd have come out and his voice would have just dismantled the image.
Yep.
Oh,
It may have worked in his favor, though, because, let me tell you, total con man, as all religious writers are. I'm going to put it out there. Yes, if you wrote a Bible, if you wrote a religious context, you're a con man. He's a total con man, so it may have worked. The Kermit thing may have worked.
what about Aleister Crowley?
Yeah, again, down the rabbit
Hey,
hole.
don't be dogging my L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard. That is a whole nother show.
I know, isn't it cool?
Oh.
The guy who wrote the most science fiction books to be written by one man ever. And for some reason they thought that that wasn't science fiction.
Yeah, made that shit up,
Yeah.
as did, I would just venture to say, Howard. Howard, you made that shit up.
But he didn't write a God in.
It's too much. So we're going to leave you with that. The next show, we will, perhaps, we'll be playing a Ouija board in our makeshift Devil's Cave.
That'll be 2 shows from now. Our next show is going to be done over Skype.
Oh, that means I have to get dressed.
Yes.
See, from the couch is easy because you just show up and whatever.
I'm going to wear a robe.
Devil's horns. Jared, we're going to start a movement. I say totally Anton LaVey.
Okay, our next one from
we're gonna
Skype.
have a big pentagon.
We dress up for it.
What? Okay.
I am going to dress like Anton LaVey.
I don't know where you're going to get that silk puffy shirt from. I may have to just stitch you one up.
Yeah. Oh, I'll go down to the thrift store, see what they got. I mean, I got to pull it out 70s style. I need a big old ring, though. Look at the size of that ring.
Yeah, his ring, children would kiss it and make wishes.
I'm telling you, that thing, it's like someone,
It's a good one.
it's like someone put a lump of coal on the end of a bread tie. It's huge.
Yeah. All right. Good show.
The devil started dancing, he was quite entrancing. When he did the jangle his own way, his bones were rattling loudly as he began to shuffle proudly. That's the way that Satan takes a holiday.
You call yourself a satanic priest.
Yes.
Is that the opposite of God?
No, because Satan is a god too.
Well, what are you then, the dirty pope or what?
Oh, I guess you could call me that if you want to say the black pope or the dirty pope or the advocate of, for example, the kingdom of night or darkness. No one's ever come forth so far and spoken up for the devil. Everybody that's made rules and regulations concerning the devil or the devil's work, the devil's activities, have been people that have been very righteous people during crusades, people...
Well, I'm not too righteous, but on the other hand, I think you're a bit of a dingaling. Let's face it. Either that or you're selling some kind of a snake oil. You got very shifty little eyes.